Hello everyone, welcome back to another edition of Family Huddle. This is our last video about the virtue of hope. You know, hope is kind of a forgotten virtue in our world, which is so full of violence and anxieties and fears and just plain busyness. Our lives are so full of the world that sometimes we forget why we're here in the first place, and that's where the virtue of hope comes in. Remember what hope is. Hope is a desire for heaven and trust in God to get us there. I remember a story one time by a priest in New York City. He said that every time he would come to open the church for early Mass, a little woman named Ruby would beat him there. She would be there waiting for him, and every time with a real smile and a "Hello, Father." And he always wondered, why is she so happy? Why is she so joyful? Because he knew about her life. He knew that because of her advanced age, she had pretty much lost all of her family and friends. And she had health issues, and she couldn't see very well, couldn't get around very well. And yet she was always so joyful. And so one day, he asked her, he said, "Ruby, I know what your life is like, and yet you are always so joyful. Tell me, what is your secret?" She said, "Father, I wake up every morning and it's a new day, and I thank God for the day, and I thank God for everything He's given me. And I trust that if God calls me today to go to heaven, to be with Him, I'm ready. But in the meantime, since I'm still here, I'm going to embrace what this day is." What a great example from Ruby about what true hope is. You see, hope isn't just looking towards the future, looking towards heaven. That's a big part of it, but it also involves realizing that God is present with us right now. You know, true hope realizes that God is very interested in our lives now, and He's present with us in all the circumstances of our daily lives. We're not angels, we're humans, right? And angels can live with their minds in heaven, but we're human. We have to live in a world that is very beautiful, but often broken, and we need to know that God is with us. One of my mom's favorite poems, which kind of illustrates this reality, is called Footprints. It goes something like this. One night, a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene, he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to him and the other to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened to be at the very lowest and saddest times of his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned Jesus about it. "Jesus, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I have noticed that during the most troublesome times in my life, there's only one set of footprints. I don't understand why, when I needed you the most, you would leave me." The Lord replied, "My precious, precious child, I love you and I would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you." From this we learned that Jesus is always with us. Even when we feel very alone, we should have that virtue of hope to know that God is with us and is always working to bring us closer to Him and ultimately to heaven. All right, here are a few questions for you to talk about. Number one, what is something that brings you real joy in your life? Number two, have you ever felt like the guy in the poem, that God seemed to be absent or silent in your life? What helped to remind you that He was there for you? All right, see you next week as we start with a new virtue.